Welcome to the Sleepy Scientist. Tonight, we're going to explore something truly extraordinary. Something so strange, so mysterious, and so quietly. And if it does, well, at least you will have something fascinating to think about while you wait for sleep to catch up with you. Now, before we drift too far from shore, I'd like to gently ask for a small favor. If you enjoy these calming explorations and find yourself returning night after night, please consider giving the video a like. It helps more sleepy minds find their way here, and it means the world to me. Also, I'm always curious, where in the world are you listening from? Maybe you're snuggled up in a quiet room in rural Canada. Or perhaps you're in a cozy apartment high above a bustling city in Japan. Wherever you are, I'd love to know your location and the local time as you listen. Feel free to leave a comment below, especially if you're listening at an odd hour. You won't be alone. Tonight's journey is called The Illusion of Reality. And we'll be floating gently through the wondrous and often bewildering ways. Because the truth is, you're not directly experiencing reality itself. You're experiencing a beautifully orchestrated version of it, woven together by your senses, memories, expectations, and a generous helping. From the tricks your eyes play on you to the strange ways your memories rewrite themselves to the elusive nature of consciousness itself. We'll be exploring the idea that much of what feels solid and true is in fact a remarkably convincing, an illusion so immersive that we rarely notice it's there at all. But don't worry, we won't be falling too far down the philosophical rabbit hole. Just far enough to make you marvel at the strange and wonderful machine between your ears. And if somewhere along the way your eyes start to feel heavy and your thoughts begin to blur at the edges, then you're in exactly the right place. Please remember, everything in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing here is intended as medical or psychological advice. But here's the twist. That model is not the world itself. It's a simulation, a very convincing one, yes, but a simulation nonetheless. You are living inside a brain-aerated virtual reality tailored specifically to you. Think of your senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell as the input cables. They feed electrical signals into your brain. But those signals are meaningless without interpretation. Reinterprets, compares, and predicts. In many cases, it fills in gaps where data is missing, which, as it turns out, is most of the time. When light enters your eyes, it hits the retina, where special cells turn that light into electrical signals. Those signals are sent along the optic nerve to the back of your brain, to a region called the visual cortex. From there, your brain begins to piece together the shape, color, distance, and motion of what it thinks you're seeing. But here's the kicker. Your eyes actually have a blind spot, an area where the optic nerve connects that has no photoreceptors at all. You are literally missing information right in the middle of your field of view. And yet, you don't see a dark hole floating around in your vision, do you? That's because your brain simply fills it in using nearby colors and patterns. You don't notice the difference. This guesswork extends far beyond blind spots. Your brain is constantly anticipating what should be there. In fact, some neuroscientists believe that vision is mostly prediction, not passive reception. The brain sends its predictions down from higher regions to lower regions, and only when the prediction doesn't match the incoming data does it stop to correct itself. This system, called predictive coding, helps you navigate the world smoothly and efficiently, even when sensory data is ambiguous or incomplete. Imagine you're walking into your kitchen at night. It's dark. You can barely see anything. But you still know where the counter is, where the fridge should be, even how far the floor is below your feet. You don't need perfect visual inputs. Your brain simply fills in the missing details based on memory and context. In many cases, it doesn't even wait for confirmation. It just assumes. This is why optical illusions are so delightfully unsettling. They reveal the predictive machinery at work. The Mueller-Lyer illusion, for instance, tricks your brain into thinking two lines are different lengths, even though they're the same. Or take the famous rotating mask illusion. Your brain insists the concave face is convex, because it is wired to expect faces to bulge outward. When the data conflicts with expectation, the illusion wins. In a way, your brain would rather be wrong with confidence than admit it doesn't know what's going on. And it's not just vision. All your senses rely on the brain's ability to interpret imperfect data. Sound waves, for example, are just changes in air pressure. Your ears detect those vibrations, and your brain turns them into footsteps, laughter, music, or a barking dog. But again, this is interpretation. Your brain uses timing, location, past experience, and pattern recognition to figure out what you're hearing. One of the more curious side effects of this system is something called the phantom phone vibration. Have you ever thought your phone buzzed in your pocket only to discover it hadn't? That's your brain filling in a sensation it expected to feel even when the signal never arrived. It predicted a vibration and ran with it. The same sort of shortcut making helps explain how we move through the world without constantly tripping over our own feet. Your body sends information from muscles, joints, and skin. But your brain doesn't wait for confirmation before you step. It uses a forward model. It predicts what the sensation of lifting your foot and shifting your weight should feel like, and only adjusts if something seems off. This helps you walk fluidly rather than moving like a stop-motion puppet. Of course, this predictive system isn't perfect. Sometimes your brain gets it hilariously wrong. Consider the rubber hand illusion. In this experiment, a participant's real hand is hidden from view, while a fake rubber hand is placed in front of them. Both the real and rubber hands are stroked with a brush at the same time. After a short while, many people begin to feel as though the rubber hand is their own. The brain, seeing the brush on the rubber hand and feeling the touch on the real hand, it updates your body model accordingly. Voila! You adopt a new plastic limb without question. This ability to remap and reinterpret extends beyond the body. It's part of how you understand space itself. Your brain doesn't just record where objects are. It creates a working model of your environment. You don't see a cup on a table? You experience the cup on the table within reach. That reachability is part of the perception. Your brain encodes affordances. What actions are possible in a given environment? This means you don't just see what is. And if you're wondering how your brain juggles all this without turning into a tangled mess of noise and confusion, at any given moment, your senses are bombarded with millions of bits of information, but you consciously notice only a tiny fraction. You might not hear the hum of your refrigerator until it turns off. You probably weren't aware of the feeling of your shirt on your shoulders until just now. That's your brain doing some very elegant housekeeping, discarding what it deems irrelevant so you can focus on what matters. This filtering is handled largely by the thalamus, often described as the brain's relay station. It decides which signals are important enough to be passed on to higher brain areas, combined with your prefrontal cortex, which governs attention and executive function. The brain curates your moment experience. You're not experiencing everything. You're experiencing a highlight reel carefully tailored to your needs. Now, this idea that the world you experience is not the world itself, but a simulation generated by your brain might sound unsettling, but really, it's a marvel of efficiency. You don't need to process every photon, every molecule of air, every vibration. You just need a usable model, something close enough to reality to keep you alive and functioning. And your brain is brilliant at making it feel seamless. It stitches together sight and sound and sensation with such ease that you rarely question it. It creates a sense of continuity, of presence, of now, even though your senses all work at different speeds. Did you know it takes longer for sound to reach your brain than light? But your brain synchronizes them anyway, making it seem as though they arrive together. This is why even a tiny delay in audio and video on a call can feel so jarring. The illusion breaks. The mind's finely tuned orchestra hits a sour note, and suddenly you re-aware that you not hearing reality. But don't worry. Most of the time, your brain is so good at managing these illusions that you go through life without noticing the seams. And that's the point. A good illusionist never reveals the trick. The fact that reality feels smooth and intuitive is proof of how well the system works. So, while it might be true that you're living in a kind of self-generated virtual reality, that doesn't make your experience any less real. After all, what is real if not what you perceive, think, and feel? Reality in the end is what your brain makes of it. And if that idea doesn't send your mind gently tumbling into dreams, it just might give it something lovely to drift. Your eyes may be windows to the soul, but they are not windows to the world. Not in the way we usually think. If they were, you'd be getting a continuous high-definition feed of yours, like a camera capturing the world with perfect clarity. But what you actually see is far stranger and more creative. It's not just what hits your retina, it's what your brain expects to see. You might imagine your visual system as a neutral observer, quietly recording whatever's out there. In reality, it's more like an editor with strong opinions, a limited budget. Let's begin with the basics. Vision starts when light enters your eye, passes through the lens, and hits the retina at the back. There, specialized cells called rods and cones translate light into electrical signals. These signals travel along the optic nerve and arrive at the visual cortex, located at the back of your brain in the occipital lobe. Simple enough, right? But here's where things get strange. You'd think that the information goes in a straight line, eye to brain to image. The visual cortex doesn't just take in raw data. It actively reconstructs a picture of the world, layering in memory, context, assumptions, and predictions. What you see isn't just a reflection of what's out there. It's a mental construction, a story your brain is telling itself about what it thinks is out there. Consider this. Every time your eyes move, and they move a lot, about 3 to 4 times every second, these rapid eye movements called saccades happen so fast that the image on your retina becomes blurred and useless during the motion. But you don't notice this? You don't perceive a moment of darkness or a blur. Your brain quietly edits out the disruption and stitches your visual field back together again, like a film editor smoothing over a jump cut. You experience a continuous, seamless world because your brain fills in the gaps without consulting you. And while we're on the subject of gaps, remember that each of your eyes has a literal blind spot where the optic nerve exits the retina. There are no photoreceptors there at all. No rods, no cones, no visual data coming in. But you don't see a black hole floating in your vision. Your brain simply invents content to go in that spot using patterns. It doesn't ask your permission, and it doesn't flag it as much. It just quietly smooths the wallpaper of your perception and carries on. This might sound like a bug in the system, but it's actually a feature. Your brain doesn't need to know every photon that bounced off every surface. It needs just enough information to help you navigate, recognize danger, locate food, and if necessary, spot your phone from across the room before it buzzes off the table. That's why context plays such a huge role in what you see. Take the classic example of color perception. You might think the color of an object is a stable feature. An apple is red. Grass is green. But your perception of color is relative. It depends on lighting, surrounding colors, and expectations. A shadow falling across a surface doesn't make you see it as a different object. Your brain corrects for lighting automatically. That's what made the dress go viral. The infamous photo where some people saw a white and gold dress while others swore it was blue and black. The image itself wasn't changing, but people's brains were correcting 4 different lighting conditions. Each person was seeing what their brain thought the lighting must be and adjusted the colors accordingly. This automatic correction is often invisible until it isn't. Consider the checker shadow illusion by Edward At. 2 squares, one in shadow and one in light, appear to be different shades of gray. But when you isolate them, they're exactly the same. Your brain has been correcting for the shadow without telling you. It assumes that a square in shadow must actually be lighter than it looks, and adjusts your perception to match. It's not trying to fool you. It's trying to help. It's trying to present a more consistent, more useful world, even if it has to invent a few things along the way. Now let's talk about faces. Humans are face-detecting machines. We are so wired to recognize faces that we see them everywhere. In clouds, in toast, in the front of a car. This phenomenon called pareidolia is a testament to just how deeply embedded facial recognition is in the brain. We have a specialized area for it too. The fusiform face area, or FFA, nestled in the temporal lobe. It lights up not just when you see actual faces, but sometimes even when you think you see one. That's why a rock formation can seem like it's smiling at you. And why emojis work even though they're literally just punctuation marks rearranged into suggestive shapes. Facial perception is also incredibly fast and emotionally charged. You can detect a threatening expression in under 200 milliseconds, often before you're consciously aware of it. Your brain gives priority to faces because social interactions depend on them. A tiny twitch of an eyebrow or a slight curve of the lips can convey sarcasm, affection, suspicion, and your brain doesn't just passively receive these cues. It interprets them. It tries to infer intention, mood, and meaning, all in a blink. Often it's right. Occasionally, it's hilariously wrong, but it always tries. This interpretive flair is why you can't always trust what you see, especially when you're tired, frightened, or expecting something unusual. In low-light conditions, your brain becomes even more reliant on predictions. That's when jackets on chairs start to look like lurking figures, and shadows seem to shift just out of view. Your brain is attempting to make sense of vague inputs, leaning heavily on past experience and emotional context. In uncertain situations, it tends to err on the side of caution. It's evolution. Way of saying better to mistake a stick for a snake than the other way around. One of the more fascinating quirks of vision is change blindness. This is when a change occurs in your visual field, but you fail to notice it because your attention is elsewhere. In experiments, people have been shown to nearly identical images, alternating rapidly, with one small change between them, like a missing lamppost or a rearranged bookshelf. Maybe you hear the gentle hum of a refrigerator, the distant murmur of cars, or the faint ticking of a clock. It feels so effortless, doesn't it? Like your ears are simply open windows letting sound drift in and set.